Today's show is brought to you by patrons as well as YouTube channel members. Thank you all for supporting independent, progressive media. It has been 4 years since the Capitol riots saw MAGA-chuds trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Since then, MAGA has not only survived, but it's actually become ascendant, along with its leader, President-elect Donald Trump. Yes, President-elect Donald Trump. Just sit there and kind of absorb that, okay? I'm sure a lot of us have had some trouble since November 5th, but nonetheless, it's an unfortunate fact of life. Now, how did it happen? Well, lots of failures, okay? Lots of failures to hold the leaders accountable for their actions, including Donald Trump. And, of course, there are other leaders, Senate at the time, Senate Majority or Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who was in power, who allowed Donald Trump to basically skate away, okay, from any accountability during his impeachment. You have that, along with the huge failure of the Department of Justice to pursue a case when they should have, okay, and not wait until pretty much the last moment of 2023 to do it, okay? And of course, you had Trump's allies as a result of all this waiting that were in good position to be able to defend him easily. So now there are several new reports. One of them from CNN notes that some members of the Department of Justice are actually calling out Merrick Garland for his monumental failure. Oh boy. Now, some of them are saying that the department wasted a full year chasing ghosts after they had received tips that Trump had met with leaders of the Proud Boys shortly before the riots erupted. So, yeah, that didn't exactly turn out. Some of these tips were not accurate, but nonetheless, DOJ officials are like, you spent too much time going after the small guys when you should have actually, stick with the facts and went after the big guy. Other DOJ officials said the department could have focused more on running an investigation, much like the one special counsel Jack Smith did. That led to criminal charges against Trump for conspiracy to defraud the United States. Unfortunately, that never went to trial, as we know. One former DOJ official told CNN, quote, "They'd wasted time. They were not strategic. It was a whole year of nothing. And they waited so long, they ended up helping Trump in the primary and dividing the country." I would argue that the country has already been pretty well divided, but yeah, I mean, overall, I agree. Yes, they wasted time. And I think one of the reasons is that they didn't really want to go after a former president for, doing alleged crimes, because if they set that precedent for Trump, well, then they'd have to go after other future presidents who may break the law as well. And why does that matter? I mean, we should want a system where if, yes, leadership does crime, then it should be held accountable. Well, you got to remember, though, that a lot of our former presidents happen to be war criminals. So that's probably one reason, in my estimation, that they didn't want to go after Donald Trump. Now, the other thing, in my opinion, that led to the DOJ essentially slow walking this case is the fact that law enforcement is filled with right-wingers. Okay, very, very right-wing oriented occupation. Okay, and look, there's also a reason that most of the Republican Party sided with and protected Trump, and that is, of course, to protect their ideology and to protect their wins. Before Donald Trump, the Republican Party was consigning itself to the dustbin of history. They were not winning. They were not doing very well. Very unpopular. And Donald Trump offered something different. Winning. And so making sure that no Republican president is ever held accountable for crimes that were clearly committed is something that the new Republican Party is all about. They're like, okay, sure. Now, according to two former DOJ officials, investigators had already uncovered enough evidence against Trump to level charges against him a full year before Smith officially indicted him in 2023. It's very possible, had this happened sooner, there would have been a trial before the election. If you already had the evidence, why didn't they go after him sooner? Why didn't they? Ask this guy. Look, there would have been more than enough time for the Supreme Court to make a decision on presidential immunity. It's one of the reasons that it took so long to, be able to schedule a case. But of course, the election happened and Donald Trump won. So all those cases, bye-bye. They're gone. They're just gone.
Bing, 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 boom. It's gone.
That's it. Thanks to Merrick Garland, we have no justice. And I'm not saying that. It's you have former House Judiciary Committee Chair Jerry Nadler saying that. He recently talked to HuffPost and said Garland only started the prosecution after he was in effect forced to by the report of the January 6th committee and the criminal referral. The evidence the January 6th committee used was available from the beginning. Had they proceeded with those prosecutions, I think he would have been convicted and we'd have a different president now. Merrick Garland wasted a year. So, yeah, that's Nadler, okay? And he is not alone in his thoughts. Okay, this is not just anonymous DOJ officials now. You have others, Benny Thompson and Zoe Lofgren. Last month, going after Garland saying, yo, you waited too long. Quote, I didn't realize that they were not looking at the whole picture, Lofgren said. I think they were taking a look at the foot soldiers. Right, the little guys who basically, in the grand scheme of things, meant almost nothing. Okay, instead of immediately taking on Donald Trump and his powerful allies, you got the small fries. No. They only indicted Trump long after he took over the Republican Party, which meant that the entire Republican Party establishment now was there to defend him. And as a result, Trump won the 2024 election before the case could even finish up, before he could stand trial, and he walked. At most, Trump could be on the hook for some of the damages as a result of civil lawsuits brought against him relating to January 6th. Is that accountability? No, it's likely going to be paid by his donors anyway if it goes anywhere. So he's not going to care. He's not going to give a damn. All right. And very likely those small players, the ones who are actually still in prison, guess what? They're going to get let out. And so that's the result of that. All right. Senator Adam Schiff, who served on the House Select Committee that investigated the attack, said the Justice Department moved with expedition when it came to the people that broke into the building, but were those at a higher level they waited almost a year on. That was a fatal mistake. Fatal to what? I don't know. Maybe our democracy. We'll see. He said, this is Tina Smith, sorry. I think the department was so focused on being kind of by the book and being so clear that there wasn't any political interference, which that doesn't make any sense because guess what? No matter what, the right wing is and Donald Trump is still going to say political interference no matter what. Okay, so it doesn't matter. She also said it really worried that, he'll become president. Yep. And he's going to pardon a bunch of people and a great sort of whitewashing of what happened will continue. Well, I got bad news for you. That is exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. Look, the weakness of Democrats, of people like Merrick Garland, which, by the way, Biden was like, oh, man, I really wish I hadn't picked that guy. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Wow. Hindsight's 2020, everybody. Literally. I mean, look, Merrick Garland, terrible pick. All right. Jack Smith, great pick. We never got to see him in action when it came to actually pushing the case, going to court. And we never will. And then, of course, you had the complete capitulation of Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Republican Party, who Mitch McConnell. Oh, I got some tough words for you, Donald Trump. Oh, and then I'm gonna vote for you. Oh, well, you're sure your words mean absolutely dick. Then that means less than nothing. If you're going to criticize this person, and agree that they're unfit and all that, but then turn around and vote for him, I mean, what kind of message is that? And then, of course, you had the the corruption of the Supreme Court, okay, giving him immunity. That all of that is why Donald Trump not only was allowed to run for office when he should have been disqualified, but also why he won. Elon Musk, fresh off his win of buying the 2024 US elections, is now looking to expand into the politics of other countries. First, throwing his support behind literal German neo-Nazis, the AfD party, and now is calling for the literal overthrow of the British government. Obviously, that's a Twitter poll, so it's going to be binding, right? Sorry, everybody. It looks like we're going to go liberate the UK. No, not only is he taking unscientific, stupid polls, right, but is also endorsing the far-right Reform UK party. However, with a slight change to the leadership. So he's not exactly in favor of current leader Nigel Farage, who is one of the most right-wing politicians in Europe. But he is calling for him to be replaced for not being extreme enough. No, lovely. Musk also endorsed the idea of King Charles III unilaterally dissolving the UK Parliament, which is not something that something that has not been done since King William IV in 1831. So unprecedented times, everybody. Since then, the king may only dissolve parliament at the request of the prime minister for the purposes of calling new elections, which I'm sure Musk does not know. Okay, I'm pretty sure he just thinks, well, if you get rid of parliament, then the king takes over and the king can do whatever he wants. No, that's not how it works. Again, the reason that I assume that is because Musk and his fans are authoritarians, and they probably are also dumb and have no idea. Okay. Now, what would happen is if King Charles, without the prime minister saying, "Hey, let's dissolve parliament so we can call new elections," which would already be like pretty insane, but not unprecedented though. It's happened quite a few times. But if he did this, then that would trigger a constitutional crisis, which could end up leading to the end of the monarchy, which, hey, look, the end result is the end of the monarchy. Maybe I'm not against that too much, but then again, I'm a Yank. So that said, it gets worse, though. And by the way, it would throw UK into absolute chaos, which would not be good. That said, it gets worse. Early Monday morning, Musk posted prison for Prime Minister Keir Starmer. What? Why? What? Oh, I may not be Starmer's fan, but like, why? Well, it turns out there are right-wing conspiracies, big surprise, involving Starmer. And apparently he's like, let the rape gangs go. Yes, that's right. We're not going to go after these rape gangs because we're afraid that, that if we do, people are going to call us racist. It's literally like the worst charge that these Republicans, these right-wingers think is, oh my God, somebody who called me racist. It's like the worst thing that could happen in their world is somebody calling them racist. Wow. Okay. Now, look, here's the thing, though. Okay. There's evidence that police officers, social services, and councils failed the victims of these sexual assaults. Okay. While there was a lot of failures, and we've seen that, there is no evidence of any organized cover-up by people like Starmer in these allegations. Okay. In fact, according to the guy who took over as chief prosecutor after Starmer, Nazir Afzal, he said Starmer actually made it easier for police to go after and go after the perpetrators of sexual assaults and grooming, and actually made it also easier for the police to protect the victims. Now, there are still reforms that need to happen, but Starmer is not exactly in charge of that. Now, is he? Now, The Guardian also notes that in 2013, Starmer revised CPS procedures on how prosecutors should deal with grooming cases in an effort to ensure that victims would not be dismissed in the future. Afzal also said Keir left in 2013, the CPS having gone from being dire at doing sex abuse cases to having the highest conviction rate in our history. That wouldn't have been possible without the support, resources, and the protection I was given by Keir at a time when it would have been easier to give up. So, there you go. He hates Starmer, though, obviously, likely because of, and I'm talking about Musk here, because of a strong response to the riots that broke out in response to a stabbing attack over the summer against young girls in Southport. Now, Musk claimed that people convicted of sharing extreme right-wing material online have been given harsher sentences than the perpetrators of the grooming scandal. Gee, if only right-wingers were actually concerned about going after groomers. But if they were, then, I mean, I got bad news. A lot of the groomers are in the churches. Okay, none are drag queens. Okay, but a lot of the groomers are faith leaders and right-wing politicians. Oops. Yeah. Now, speaking of right-wing politicians, right? Musk has found himself at odds with the Reform UK Party leader Nigel Farage over whether or not English anti-Islam extremist Tommy Robinson should be given a prominent position within the party. So now Farage is like, no, that guy's too extreme for me. Whereas Musk is like, oh, I love this extremism. It's great. Now, Robinson, by the way, another issue there for him is that he is currently serving a prison sentence for contempt of court. But, of course, Musk is like, I'm going to back Robinson anyway. And you know why? It's because Farage doesn't have what it takes. Wow. Now, Farage responded on Sunday by posting that Robinson would never be allowed in the Reform UK Party due to extremism and criminal background. Gee, if only the Republican Party cared about that here in America. I mean, oh, no, criminal background. No, we just made that guy our president. What are you talking about? We love criminals. Oh, my God. He also said that despite the fact that he respects Musk, Farage would never sell out his principles. I don't know. Maybe Farage is asking for a donation or two. I mean, the world's richest man already bought the U.S. election. So everybody's like, maybe there's some money to be made here. I don't know. I don't know if Farage would take the money, okay? Or if Musk would even offer it. That said, when Nigel Farage is not extreme enough for you, there are problems. There are problems. But you can see here how this man baby actually literally believes that he is the smartest man alive. It's like all that praise that people gave him went straight to his fat head. Okay? And believes that being obscenely rich, thanks to, in large part, government contracts, somehow makes him qualified now to run politics in several different countries. Just because the United States is deeply corrupt and broken does not mean that every other country is, and that you could buy them like you bought the presidency of the United States. That said, the British right wing, they were actually pretty cool with him attacking Starmer because they're like, yeah, get him. But they soon, once the attacks on Farage happened, they changed their tune. In fact, you had the Sun editor Kelvin McKenzie writing, Elon Musk has tweeted that Farage should be replaced as leader of reform as he hasn't got what it takes. I don't agree. No Farage, no reform. This tweet could be very damaging to Farage. Makes you wonder if Musk will make a donation conditional on Farage being removed. Businessman Aaron Banks, a co-founder of the pro-Brexit Leave.eu campaign, And Farage, Project Megadonor, said this. Mind you, Elon Musk did change his mind on the Donald. I've got a feeling they will make up soon. Oh, will they? Well, I don't know. There are others that weighed in. Former Breitbart editor Raheem Kassam told Musk, quote, "You are an effing moron." All right. Julia Hartley Brewer says, really not sure why Elon Musk thinks it's his business to tell British political parties who their leaders should be, or indeed to demand a new UK general election just months after the last one. Power has gone to his head even before Trump takes office. This won't end well. Well, I don't know. That said, look, Trump and Musk are both fascists. What do I mean? I mean the merging of corporation and state. Okay, in order to benefit the owners of said corporations to the detriment of working people. That's fascism for you. Okay, and that's it at the end of the day. Elon Musk wants money. He wants power. And I think his ego demands that he be hailed as the savior of humanity. He wants all that stuff. So at the end of the day, for him, it's all ego. We have some new details about the bomber that took his own life outside of a Trump International hotel on New Year's Day. So it turns out the man who has been identified as 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger was an active duty Green Beret who apparently was undergoing a bit of a mental health crisis and also was very right-wing. Shocker. CNN reported Saturday night that while he sought treatment through the VA system, he was not considered to be a threat to himself or the public, which, in hindsight, obviously incorrect. Yes, investigators in Vegas said that 7 people were injured in the blast, which caused minimal damage to the Trump building, but obliterated the rented Tesla Cybertruck Livelsberger was driving. I mean, iconic, that picture. Police said on Friday that Livelsberger left behind 2 messages that were critical of both the Democratic Party and American culture overall. CNN's report said that he had visited the military behavioral health program multiple times in recent months and was diagnosed with depression last year, but had not been assessed to be a risk to harm himself or others. The day before the explosion, he had sent an email to some online media outlets saying that he was armed and that he had a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. So authorities are really looking through his phone data now to see what else he might have written. There seems to be a log of activity that he wrote for the 10 days leading up to this explosion. He had rented the Cybertruck, driven it from Colorado to Nevada, purchased 2 guns legally shortly before all of this happened. Investigators say that he had killed himself and set off these explosives also almost at the same time, right in front of the Trump Hotel on New Year's Day. So, I mean, but why? Why exactly? Well, there's some messages released by Livelsberger, one in which he wrote, "Military and vets move on DC starting now." Oh, well, that sounds dangerous. "Militias facilitate and augment this activity." Oh, so we're talking about armed takeover. Great. "Occupy every major road and along Fed buildings and the campus of Fed buildings by the hundreds of thousands. Lock the highways around down with semis right after everybody gets in. Hold until the purge is complete." Purge. "Try peaceful means first," he says, "but be prepared to fight to get the Dems out of the Fed government and military by any means necessary. They must all go, and a hard reset must occur for our country to avoid collapse." So, wait, well, hold on. Collapse from the Democrats? Because of the Democrat? What? And by the way, it is kind of ironic that he's like, you know what, let's try peaceful means first. Wait, what? You just said takeover before literally blowing himself up too. It's a bit ironic. Okay. Overall, look, his messages, they're fairly unhinged. You could tell, right? But they're, in this, strangely enough, there is a couple of truths. Okay. And so let me read through that. He said, first, we are the United States of America. True. It's one of the truths. That's not what I mean, though. The best country people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed toward collapse. We are crumbling because of the lack of respect, morales, which I'm assuming means morals, and respect for others. Oh, greed and gluttony has consumed us. The top 1% decided long ago they weren't going to bring everyone else with them. You are cattle to them. We have strayed from family values and corrupted our minds, and I am a prime example of having it all, but it never being enough. A lot of us are just sitting around waiting to die. No sunlight, no steps, no fresh air, no hope. Our children are addicted to screens by the age of 2. We are filling our bodies with processed foods. Our population is too fat to join the military, yet we are facing a war with China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran before 2030. Well, if Republicans have their way, absolutely. Okay. And the military-industrial complex. We must take these actions if we are going to make it past the next few years in one piece. We must end the war in Ukraine with a negotiated settlement. It is the only way. Or Putin could just stop attacking Ukraine. That would also solve it. Just saying. Focus on strength and winning. Masculinity is good, and men must be leaders. Strength is a deterrent, and fear is the product. Wait. Well, okay, hold on. Masculinity is good, by the way. Nothing wrong with masculinity. When it starts getting into the toxic variety, that's when it's bad. When you start denying people rights and trying to control other people's lives, and then saying, and believing that like every little thing that someone does that might be a bit feminine is a threat to your masculinity. No, that's not what masculinity is. Like, if your masculinity is threatened by every other thing, then it's not exactly masculine now, is it? It doesn't make any sense. But men must be leaders. What's wrong with women leaders? I think that there are some female leaders out there who would actually do a much better job than some of these mediocre men. Just saying. Weeded out those in our government and military who do not idealize number 2. Okay. The income inequality in this country and cost of living is outrageous. Okay, well, there's a fair point. The number of homeless in our street is embarrassing and disgusting. Well, that does not exactly tell me that he cares about the plight of the unhoused, just that he wants to be disgusted by them and doesn't want them in sight. So that's not good. Have some pride and take care of this. Stop obsessing over diversity, he says. We are all diverse, and DEI is cancer. What? Thankfully, we rejected the DEI candidate and have a real president instead of Weekend at Bernie's. Okay, so definite right-wing talking points there. We must move on from the culture of weakness and self-enrichment perpetuated by our senior political and military leaders. I would say of both sides, there's a lot of self-enrichment there. We are done with the blatant corruption. Our soldiers are done fighting wars without end states or clear objectives. Once again, all you had to do is just look at Iraq and Afghanistan, which were wars that were launched by Republicans, neocons, okay, that had no end states or clear objectives. Hey, do you know who got us out of Iraq? Barack Obama. You know who got us out of Afghanistan? Joe Biden. Huh, weird. That's really strange how he's pointing at like right-wing failures from like neocons basically, and being like, Democrats. What? He then says, this was not a terrorist attack. Really? It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? That's the American way, apparently. Why did I personally do it now? I needed to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. Consider this last sunset of 24 and my actions the end of our sickness and a new chapter of health for our people. Rally around the Trump, Musk, Kennedy, and ride this wave to the highest hegemony for all Americans. We are second to no one. Actually, no, that's wrong. We're actually worse than second in a lot of in a lot of cases, you know, when it comes to healthcare, education, all that. But hey, we are actually first when it comes to the number of billionaires. So we're second to none. We got more billionaires than anybody. Woo! Oh, wait, that's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing. Look, reading through that, and I felt it important to do so because there are some issues that people like him do diagnose somewhat correctly. Okay, agree to the 1%. Agree. Cost of living being outrageous. Absolutely agree. You know, and you know who's causing those things? The billionaires. The richest man in the world, Elon Musk, people like him, who you venerate. Yeah. And then again, this guy's like, DEI is a real problem. No, it's not. His solutions, by the way, nonsensical. We need more family values. We need more masculine men. No, what we do need to do is to get together and to fight against corruption, get the money out of politics. But you can't really do that if you, I don't know, vote in more corruption. I mean, Donald Trump is the most personally and politically corrupt president we've ever had. He has assembled a billionaire's cabinet, okay, that is going to preside over the biggest robbery of the American people we have ever seen. Okay, that's the thing. He's the poster child for self-enrichment and weakness. He and Elon Musk, they're out there whining all the time about everything's so unfair. It's woke. It's woke, woke, woke. You think people like that are masculine? No. No, not at all. It's warped. And then putting the entire blame on the Democrats. When in reality, as I mentioned, a lot of it's neocons. And yes, I'm not saying that the Democrats are blameless. Oh, no, 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 no. The Democrats tend to bow to the whims of the billionaires and the corporate donors. That's part of the problem. That's a big part of the problem because basically you've got two corporate-controlled parties. That's it. And so, and by the way, the donors like Elon Musk are also part of the problem. It's such a warped view, but, you know, the right wing, it's one that the right wing has right now while, you know, basically projecting everything that is actually wrong with their party onto the Democrats who have their own issues. Look, Republicans, they love talking about fighting corruption, right? But actually they engage in massive amounts of it. And yet, while, you know, Republicans are doing that, Democrats are unfortunately avoiding any talk of fighting real corruption because they're afraid of the donors. They're afraid of groups like AIPAC, okay? Both parties, you have to understand, are corrupted by the massive amounts of money in our political system. But the trick that Trump pulled is pretending to be against it and pretending to be a populist while actually getting ready to rob and pillage all of us. Yet, sadly, the Democrats refuse to leave their ivory towers and refuse to kick out the lobbyists, the corruption, the corporate donors, the old leadership. They can't even get rid of the old leadership, okay? Which has led to devastating losses against openly corrupt people like Donald Trump. They can't compete anymore. And what's worse is they help the right wing by putting the blame for their losses on the left, which has no institutional power. When in reality, our current hellscape is really the fault of the establishment that has created and fostered all of this. As the Biden administration begins to wind down, the outgoing octogenarian president, Biden, has left incoming President-elect Donald Trump a little something something to remember him by. A slap in the face. To his oil agenda. President Biden has invoked the 1953 Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act. What does that mean? It basically would prevent new fossil fuel developments off the east and west coasts of the United States, as well as in the eastern Gulf of Mexico and Alaska's North Bering Sea. That's about 625 million acres of offshore areas that would be closed to fossil fuel development. Ooh, ouch. There you go. Now, wait a minute. Can he just undo it? Well, hold on. The law gives presidents the power to permanently withdraw parts of the outer continental shelf from future oil and gas leasing. This does not the act does not include a provision for how the president could revoke such an order. So he couldn't get rid of it, not by himself at least. He would have to get Congress to change the law itself, okay, before he could then undo Biden's action. Now, look, you can say, well, Republicans, they have a majority, right? They do. But while they have that majority, they don't exactly have a big enough majority to defeat the filibuster. Okay, so there are ways that Democrats could block Trump. All right. That is, again, unless they do away with the filibuster, which, well, that would be pretty disastrous. Now, that said, Biden's decision was immediately condemned by Trump's incoming press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, who wrote this, quote, "This is a disgraceful decision designed to exact political revenge on the American people who gave President Trump a mandate to increase drilling and lower gas prices. Rest assured, Joe Biden will fail, and we will drill, baby, drill." It's a revenge on the American people, right? Right. No. Look, the president doesn't set gas prices, okay? The oil markets do. There's no such thing as domestic oil unless you count the strategic reserve, what's in there, okay? Everything, you have to understand, everything pumped out of the ground gets sold on the world market, okay? The profits don't go back to us. No, they don't go to the American people. They go to multinational corporations, oil companies, okay? Like Shell and BP. These giant companies and the commodity traders, specifically futures, right? I mean, you got these Wall Street people who will bet on the future demands of oil, and that ends up setting the price. It's all prediction. It's a house of cards, is what it is. So now you could have a situation like right now, all right, where domestic oil and gas drilling are record highs, but you end up with higher prices because, we think 6 months from now the demand is going to be really high, and so we're going to set the price high now. What? Now, of course, look, there's lots of different factors as why gas prices are fairly high, right? I mean, OPEC Plus has a pretty big, role in setting, oil prices, right? And setting supply. And I'm not talking about U.S. supply. I'm talking about global supply, because that's what prices in the U.S. and everywhere else are largely based on. Okay, the world oil supply, demand, futures, and of course you have your various taxes and fees. Of course, that's after it gets refined and sent to the gas station. Gas station, of course, corporations set those prices, all that stuff, right? You've also got the war in Ukraine, which is affected oil prices as well. So look, all that stuff, okay? It's not up to just drilling. It's not as easy as just, let's just drill more. That's not the way that it's set up. And to think that it's so simple, if you believe that because you heard it from Fox News, I'm sorry, but you got lied to. Bamboozled, if you will. All right? It's not that simple. That said, getting back to Trump here, this is a way to slap Trump in the face. It simply is. I mean, I know, she says, well, it's political. Yeah, it actually kind of is. Look, Biden had this power the whole time to invoke this. And yet, under Biden, we actually had the most domestic oil and gas drilling on record. Okay? So, yes, so we're drilling the crap out of everything, right? But, again, to be fair with Biden, he's also, at the same time, pushing alternative energy, right? And so, all right, maybe that's why Joe Biden didn't invoke this. But that said, now that Donald Trump is going to roll back the alternative energy that Biden had pushed, then, well, Biden's just like, oh, you know what? I don't think so. Let's see how far you get now if you can't drill anymore. Ha! Now, in a statement, Biden said that drilling in those areas he's seeking to protect could cause irreversible damage to places we hold dear and is unnecessary to meet our nation's energy needs. Well, yeah, like I said, record oil and gas production. And then, of course, we have more renewables and should be going with more renewables anyway, not just for climate change, but also so that we're not dependent on foreign energy sources, not dependent on the world market. So we kind of actually, it's funny because Democrats could just be like, hey, you know what alternative energy is? That's real domestic energy. Yeah. These solar panels, we could make them here, manufacture them here with good paying American jobs and generate energy, unlimited energy from the freaking sun, which goes to America. You can't just sell, a barrel of sunlight to China. Okay, no, that's ours and it goes to our homes and it doesn't go to anybody else. That's ours, our energy. You could really sell it as domestic energy production. But no, the fossil fuel, lobbyists that do purchase Democrats because of our corrupt system, they said no, we can't have that. We can't have that. Or maybe just Democrats just suck at marketing. I would also think that they suck at marketing. But anyway, getting back to his statement, he says it's not worth the risks as climate crisis continues to threaten communities across the country, and we are transitioning to a clean energy economy. Now's the time to protect the East Coast for our children and grandchildren. Well, look, I agree with that. I do. But let's be honest, right? Let's just be honest about this. Do I think that this is partly political, this decision? Oh, yeah. Oh, come on. But that said, outside from that, I do think he also has a good reason, right? Look, Donald Trump's going to let all the oil companies go crazy with the drilling. Deregulation is going to be disastrous for the climate. So handcuffing Trump not only reduces the harm, which is smart politically, okay, it will kind of slow him down unless Republicans somehow destroy the filibuster and be able to, unchange that law to allow Trump to undo this, which I could see happening. But hey, it'll slow him down and that'll frustrate him, which will no doubt bring Biden a small measure of satisfaction. So that's part of it. And the other part is, of course, caring a little bit about the environment, caring a little bit about moving towards alternative energy sources, which we should be doing anyway. So overall, I don't have a problem with this. I do think it's political. I do think it's funny. But I also think that it is important and might force, I don't know if force is the right word, and I don't know if I'll be correct on this, but it might force Trump to maybe not completely pull back all the investments in alternative energy, because the less energy there is, the more those other sources, oil and gas, will be worth. And so, what do I see when that price is going up? So you don't want to do that. You don't want to do anything to make those prices go up because, as we've seen with this election, voters are more than happy to blame the president for gas prices going up. And so the result of this is that happening. Well, that would just be another way that Joe Biden gets the last laugh. Insurance companies are not beating the evil allegations. Many companies now are pulling back on coverage of things like prosthetic limbs, that people need to not live, but to live with dignity, independence, etc. Now, one user of one of these devices, Michael Adams, lost his right leg to cancer when he was 11 years old. Okay, he's been using his insurance that he pays for to be able to get high-tech prosthesis that protects against falls, stuff with like a microchip in it, right? Now, he specifically picked out a gold plan in the Colorado health insurance marketplace, which covered prosthetics, like the kind he had been using for years with no issues whatsoever. So he's like, great, I'm paying for this gold plan, okay, that specifically is for the thing that I need it for. And yet, when he tried to replace the prosthetic that he was using, you know, because of wear and tear, right? They eventually break down. You know where I'm going with this. His new marketplace plan said, nope, not authorized. It's not medically necessary. What? Now, that replacement, of course, would cost him about 50 grand out of pocket. And, you know, most of us don't have that lying around. Now, his doctor, of course, was like, no, this is medically necessary. It specifically prescribed him a version of that leg for many years, starting when he had employer-sponsored coverage, and yet this company decides to say, you know what, this time, no, not medically necessary. It was medically necessary before, when we covered it before, but now it's not. What? So, wait, Colorado has laws, right, that leave the determination of medical necessity up to the patient's doctor, right? Well, yeah. But apparently those laws only apply to plans regulated by the state. Over half of people with private coverage are in plans that are not governed by that state law, which allows companies to deny these limb replacements as unnecessary. Okay. Gotcha. Now, how does this happen? According to Ashley White, Chief Strategy and Programs Officer at the Amputee Coalition, said that even though coverage for basic prosthesis may be included in a plan, often insurance companies will put caps on the devices and restrictions on the types of devices approved. Oh, so it's the microchip, which, again, prevents you from falling over, okay? Special sensors in it that, you know, stabilizes you, okay? Very important, I would think. No, not approved. We've decided to take away approval for that one. Oh, okay. Now, Jeffrey Kane, a family physician and former chair of the board of the Amputee Coalition, noted that insurance covers a knee replacement if it's covered with skin, but if it's covered with plastic, it's not going to cover it. So, and that's another thing, right? Another arbitrary reason that these get denied. Plans may deny coverage for prosthetic limbs by claiming that they aren't medically necessary or are experimental devices, like this one, even though the microprocessor-controlled knees like Adam's have been in use for decades. Oh, we're just going to claim that it's experimental, even though that it's definitely not experimental. But come on, man, we got to have a reason. We just got to have a reason. Even in the cases, by the way, where insurance does cover it, remember, insurance doesn't pay the full amount. Some people have even had to resort to taking out bank loans in order to cover their prosthesis. And if they can't make the payments, what do you think happens? Lenders in some cases have literally repossessed prosthetic limbs and have even taken people's wheelchairs. So this is the state of healthcare in the richest country in the world, where, oh, if you miss your arm payment, they will literally take it from you. Oh, you know, hey, it gives new meaning to the phrase, you know, an arm and a leg. Yeah, they're going to take the arm and the leg. These insurance companies and these banks, it's insane. Now, Adams was lucky. He ultimately owed a co-insurance payment of about $4,000 for his leg, okay, which reflected his portion of the insurer's negotiated rate for the knee and foot portion of the leg, but did not include the costly part that fits around his stump, which didn't need replacing at the time. The insurer ended up approving the prosthetic leg on appeal, claiming that it had made an administrative error. Oh, I'm sure it was that, but not the heat that, you know, from denying this. And it's not just him. There are other people that have been denied very major stories, like, you know, this little girl that wanted didn't have the money for a prosthetic arm, raised a bunch of money for it, and then ended up giving that money away to other people who were in need. This is a uniquely American story where people, who need something, raise money and then give it to people who are also in need. And that's supposed to be a feel-good story? No, it's not a feel-good story. It's an example of how broken our system actually is and how just inhuman our system is. It's horrible. Now, that said, getting back to Adams, hey, he got his leg. But there are so many other people who do not have the ability to afford those negotiated payments, those co-payments for those limbs. In fact, there was a young woman who was born without a left hand. Okay. She was denied a prosthetic hand by her insurance company. Now, that hand, of course, would allow her to perform certain actions, actions that would be necessary for independence. Without insurance coverage, the hand would cost her just over $46,000, which, of course, most people cannot afford because that's really expensive. The insurance company, what did they say? Well, it's not medically necessary. Not medically necessary to have a hand? Now, her doctor disagrees with that assessment and has been trying to help her get one. Okay? But you got to understand, too, how much doctors, how much time they waste having to do stuff like this, having to argue with insurance companies instead of providing care. They spend most of their time on the phone arguing with insurance companies. I want to run this test for this specific disease. I want to do this. I want to prescribe this. Are you going to cover it? They're on the phone. And then, of course, insurance will deny it later on anyway. And then the patient ends up being on the phone for days, weeks, months at a time, contesting these bills. This is why everyone hates insurance. Okay? That's why they hate insurance companies. And look, the other reason, of course, is that you've got these amazing inventions, devices that can help people gain or, just have their independence, have it back or gain it for the first time. And yet you've got these greedy companies that deny you, even if you're paying insurance. They're saying, no, you don't need that. No, you don't need that at all. A hand? A leg? Are you sure? Okay, well, let's see you guys go with that one then. I'm sure you'll manage. Look, it's stuff like this is why people are furious at the system. Okay, not only do these companies deny life-saving drugs for profit, but also life-changing prosthetics. They would rather keep people in misery or have them die than lose any of their profit margins. Insurance is nothing more than a middleman that is just there to scrape as much profit off of you as they can by denying you care. This is not what medicine, this is not what science should be doing. These amazing devices should be allowed to go to the people who need them to enhance their quality of life. Period. End of sentence. That should be it. Should not be held. This and life-saving medications should not be held up by the wills of people who just want to use it to make profits. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.